fairly new, newly developed area. The homes are maybe maximum about 25 years old, and pretty much all tract stuff. So it's fairly easy from that aspect. But I'm just trying to master this Volytics system.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I'm still having a little bit of trouble uploading and downloading files to Volytics.
Right.
But what's the general pattern of or format for this lesson?
Well, I had worked on the REDE tool in the first couple, and then last week had a couple folks kind of at your stage where we were just starting out, and so worked through the uploading and downloading like you described, and showed a little bit of this the order processing piece. So for yourself, then you've got the REDE tool installed and are able to use that on your
Yeah,
PC.
I did. I had a meeting with Glenn actually Wednesday, and he helped me out with that part of it. So I did get the REDE tool working, and I designated my areas within my zone.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of got off on a wrong start quite some time back on the market areas. I initially thought that, seeing as how I had a defined age window, that maybe I should define my areas by age,
Right.
as the development as they built into new homes. But I ended up with, by doing it that way, I ended up with about 250 market areas, which is obviously too much.
Yeah.
So now I've used the REDE tool, mapped out the areas that are suitable for it, but now I have all of the original market areas that I designated, plus I have all the new ones that I've designated. So there's obviously some duplication in there.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how to. Do I need to eliminate or delete some of those old ones, or I'm reluctant to delete anything?
Yeah, and so that's a good kind of topic, and we can talk about that as well. So when you revisited how you were going to make your market groups, what did you decide on roughly? I mean, was it to do it geographically?
Yeah, I cut it down to about 8 market zones.
Uh-huh.
And then, of course, with all the submarkets within each of those, there's still a fair number, but at least now I can I've got the 8 areas that are fairly similar. They have definitive kind of features to them. So location-wise,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm happy with that. But I'm a little concerned about whether I should get rid of these other ones, the old format.
Right, right. So I'm going to even go back a step and ask you, because as you'll see in the document I put together here, and my take on this is that we want to have the minimum number of markets that are necessary for a zone, because as you saw, each market you create, Volytics is going to slice and dice up into 10 or 15 market groups. Right. Based on those things. So one of the zones I've got, I just split in 2 because there's a school district boundary that does affect property values. Another one was fairly homogeneous, and I decided not to divide it at all initially. I'm going back and carving out some pockets like of the condo developments. But would you say, and I guess this is the test I suggest to folks, if there really are lines that you wouldn't want to cross as an appraiser in terms of getting comps, then that's probably appropriate to draw a market group. But if they're similar enough that you could go on either side, but perhaps make other adjustments that we can do in Validix, like for condition, if that might reflect the age of it. That it might be okay to use just one market group, or one market rather, for that area. So for that area you were talking about, Carmel Valley, do you see it as kind of 8 pockets that you wouldn't want to cross to get comps?
I wouldn't if there's adequate sales.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. No, and if and there's there's enough sales activity usually in these areas that I wouldn't need to. If I did, I could jump into one of the other areas or pull something from another area, but it's unlikely that I would need to. And if it is within the area, of course, it's a better comp.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that 8 will work, and there will be perhaps more work initially, kind of the one-time basis of doing some combining into primary and secondary market groups. And have you seen that, or you understand that concept yet, the primary and secondary relationship?
I haven't got to that stage yet, no.
Okay, all right. Well, so the other guideline that I found, and I tell folks, is for each of the market groups that you're going to have in Validix and that you're going to need to do maintenance on each month, you're going to want to have a minimum of about 200 properties. And again, that's just so that you have enough sales to find 3 to 6 comps over the last 6 to 12 months. If it gets smaller than that, then it's probably not going to be a market group that can work for the Validix model with the essentially the statistical method. So when you're combining or creating market groups, you'll want to combine in a primary secondary kind of relationship the things that Validix creates initially, so that you can get that critical mass. So I think as you get into it, you'll see, and we can look at it, I'll demonstrate that here, how you can combine some of those market groups that Validix creates. And so you'll get the effect that you mentioned, where Validix will first try to find comps from within the primary market group that you created, and if there's not sufficient ones, then it will go into some of the secondary ones that you've grouped together. So I think that will work the way it should. So I wanted to throw that out. Again, that try to have a minimum of a couple hundred properties. But now I want to go back to the comment you made about some of the old markets that you created and the new ones. When you created those markets, did you use the GIS mapping tool?
No, I didn't. These were created probably 2 years ago, 2-3 years ago, something in that range, when we were in San Diego. We lost our ADO originally, and he didn't opt to come into the new new company.
Right.
And he had control of a lot of the areas. So as it turns out now, we're actually Chaz has taken over those zones. But back at that time, we didn't really have the REDE tool available. So we were just kind of plugging along with it and making initial attempts to try and define market areas.
Right. And so you kind of went by street or census tract or something like that?
Actually, I think we combined MLS data. We had MLS data downloaded into it, and then through that, that was when my initial idea was to use age, an age range of 3 to 4 years.
Right.
and because this area was virtually undeveloped prior to 1983, 84, and then everything was built new.
Yeah.
From 84 through until things stopped.
Right.
So, and they expanded the into new parts of the zone. So, I thought, well, that's going to give me a real good comparison, because you're going to be able to compare age and location at the same time just by using the year built.
Yeah.
Yeah, but as I say, it hasn't. None of that information has been uploaded to, it's in Validix, but I haven't uploaded any of my new market areas as yet. I'm just working on.
So right now, the market areas you're working on are like on a map. I mean, you're just like paper maps, kind of scoping out what you're going to do.
No, I suppose actually they are uploaded, because when I go into Validix now, I have my new market areas in there, but also the old ones are in there.
Yeah, and when you say the old ones, do you see them on this kind of screen? I mean, you're
No, because they're only defined by age.
Okay, so there's no.
They're the only mapping properties in there are my new zones, or my new market areas.
Right.
As I say, I have about 8 of those, but they're still on the list when I download or look at Validix. The old ones are in there, but the new ones are in there as well.
Yeah. So the new ones you're talking about, like new construction, say?
No, the new market areas that I've defined.
Where you got new
the eight market areas.
Yeah.
And what I did is, again by suggestion I picked up, I named these market areas by starting with CA 261, which is my zone.
Right.
And then the zone description, or the area description.
Right.
So they're easy for me to find, is in the Validix thing, and I can proceed just taking those zones and those market areas rather, and rough scoring them, and not bother to do anything with the old ones. But I don't want to create a problem. So
yeah,
I'm wondering, get rid of the old categories by age, or whether they'll just sit there and be incorporated.
Yeah. So I think I would recommend you get rid of the old ones and put them all into the new scheme.
Mm-hmm. Now, theoretically, with the REDE map, if I've drawn my area boundaries, that should incorporate all the stuff that's in that boundary, correct?
Well, this GIS tool, this thing with drawing the areas like we're looking at here on the screen, there's some limitations. They made it simpler so it's faster, but you have to be aware of the limitations, and we've bumped into it up here. And I guess, Richard, I'll just take an aside now, because certainly this is another thing I've recommended to folks. If there's other appraisers down there in the area, and somehow you can get organized to meet together, it sure helps us up here. We get together like in a library room with Wi-Fi access or a Panera Bread. So, if somebody's stuck, or, you can brainstorm and throw these ideas off at each other. So I'll certainly suggest that going forward, if there's a way to, physically get together with your laptops, it's worked well for us, especially as we're going through all these details of things. And I don't know what with San Diego, do you know how many other active zone owners there are down there right now?
There's probably a dozen to maybe 10 or 12, something in that range that I'm aware of that are actually involved, with it here.
Yeah.
Other than that, there was, as I say, the former ADO had about 13 or 14 zones, and
the Chaz has picked up. Huh?
Yeah, the Chaz has picked up. of course, he's up in L.A. and he has met with us here, the zone owners down here in San Diego. But and I believe he's rough scored all of his zones, all of the zones. But so he has basically he has the majority of the central zones for San Diego.
Right.
Initially, the old ADO, I think his name was Allen, last name Allen, but he got in early, and I think he had, as I say, I think he had about 13 zones initially. So he picked obviously the better ones, or the
yeah
ones,
Yep.
So
Well, I think homogeneous is the way to go. If it's pretty similar.
I do too. Yeah. And that was why I picked this particular area. It's I live here. I'm real familiar with it.
Yeah.
And it's all the right age.
Right. Yep.
Tract home.
Yep. And so
there's a few custom stuff in custom homes in my zone, but not that many.
Right. And those, I suppose, you can go into, and on the condition or view, or certainly by size, they're going to be sliced out separately, and can work on those. So, yeah, I had this picture as part of my presentation. So this is kind of our core group. There's about a half dozen, sometimes 9 of us that meet, and so it certainly helped a lot. Some guys say just to block out the time, 3 hours or 4 hours each week to work on things.
Sure.
Has worked pretty well. So I would certainly suggest that going forward as well, if you can, as the other ones get engaged, or if there's an opportunity to set something like that up.
Yeah, certainly, would be open to that.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
I don't know how busy you are right now, but things have been humming here in San Diego.
Yeah, and I know that's always the tough part, juggling the things that are producing revenue now versus this thing that, hopefully will produce some in the future, but it's just a lot of sweat equity at this point.
Yeah.
Yep. So, well, let me do this. Let me talk a little bit about the map tool, and this is another of the documents I created as well, so you get that when I email it to you. The tool works well as long as you stay within the restrictions. And so the way I describe the map tool is that it's a good first step. It'll allow you to go in and grab a big chunk of properties based on geography and push them all into a market name. So that's the good thing. What you have to be aware of, especially like us up here and you that started earlier, is that if you currently have a market name for any property, this map tool won't rename those market names. So the first step is to go in and clear out the market names. And if you're starting fresh, then things will work pretty smoothly. But if you're not, there may be an iteration or two to get the names cleared out. And so you can do that in the REDE tool pretty easily. Search for all of them that had the old name and just change it to an empty field. Not even a blank, but just totally empty. And then once you upload that back into Validix, those properties will be good to go. There's a couple kind of odd behaviors that you have to be aware of in Validix, and you might have to work with Glenn on this. One of them is that the REDE tool, when you download stuff, it only pulls down residential properties. So if you've got the type as R-anything, it'll pull it down. But if you initially put some as a C-whatever, the commercial ones, that doesn't get pulled down to REDE, and so you can't clear those market names out directly, and Glenn's got to have the programmers do something in the database to clear those all up. And if you, which it didn't sound like you created any of these primary secondary relationships, but if you've done that, you've got to have all those uncoupled and no more of those primary secondary things, which the REDE tool will do, again, as long as there aren't commercial properties. So you'll have to watch out for that. But if, for example, you had some of the properties in the new name with the eight markets that you've got, you wanted to leave those be, then that's fine. You could clear out all the other ones with the old names, and then go into this tool and draw what they call a shape file, and that would push that that name in to all those properties. So with this tool, on the map page here, I say look at it as a one-time deal, because you'll push those names into all the properties and give them a market name. But then after that, you can go in if you want to carve out some, condo developments or high-end homes, or for some reason create some other market groups that you do with the REDE tool. This page won't show you those new market groups. It doesn't show properties. It just shows what's that shape file you drew and where's it at. So you kind of lose control after that if you go in and customize things. The only other caveat is if you have an area that's named, like here, Piedmont Hills High School, and I delete it, it's going to delete everything that has Piedmont Hills High School in it, even if it was a property up here in another shapefile area. So when you delete things, you got to be aware that anything, no matter where it's at, that has that same name as your shapefile is going to go. So if you kind of understand what the map tool does and doesn't do, you can use it well. The other thing that it helps to know with this map tool is that, like I said, if a property already has a name, it's in a market, then if you draw on top of it, it won't matter. It won't change it. And the same way, if you draw outside the lines, it won't matter. Now, the old GIS tool, you couldn't get outside the black line of your zone boundary, and so then it was pretty tedious if you had kind of a irregular shape like this. The new one, as you saw before, I just drew over the top with kind of a big rectangle, because it's not going to do anything outside the black lines. The other thing, it's not going to do anything over this green line for a market I've already drawn or a shapefile. So, the first one you draw, you're going to want to be real careful that you go right up the middle of the street, you have everything right in terms of where the boundary is. But then on the second one, you can overlap it and it won't matter. It won't scoop stuff out of the overlapped areas. And some of these I drew, actually this zone I guess I did draw with the old tool, so I was trying to stay inside the boundaries. But this new one, if I draw this little thing up here that says start drawing, and it's kind of like the MLS interface on a lot of things, just click, click, click. I can do this quick and it will capture everything there, and then it'll put a little plus sign so I can name it, and then I'll give it a name, and all the properties that are in there will capture that name. And until I do that, until I name it, I can change this around. So if I want to draw these little pop points, especially if I'm tracing a street, then I can clean this up as I need to. But you can only do that until you save it. Once you save it, it locks it forever. And so then I can just do this map test, give it a name and save it, and it'll create it. Now it pops this little thing over here to the right, which is kind of a summary of what you saw on the properties and markets before. So it says, okay, I created this market called Matt Test Hillside, and I sliced it up. Validix did by our single-family detached one-story from 2000 to 2499. There's 50 properties there, 38 there. So it kind of gives me the summary of what it did.
Well, when I did this with the with the map drawing tool, I was getting the lists on the right-hand side here for each area that I was defining. So it must have picked up the ones that were already in there. under the age brackets.
Yeah. And so you drew this with the new version of the GIS tool?
Correct.
Ah. Well, that would be interesting because what I had seen was it wasn't capturing anything that already. I mean, it wasn't renaming anything that already had a name in there,
Yeah.
unless you
Maybe
deleted it.
maybe I hadn't saved all those market areas. That's possible, I suppose.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
when I went into Validix and looked at it and and opened it up, it told me that I had 258 market areas.
Right.
But maybe they under that old system, I was able to override it with the new drawing that new REDE tool thing.
Right, right. Uh, yeah.
With,
Well,
uh,
that's interesting. I may run it past Glenn. I had not seen it being able to overwrite properties out here. Let's just do that just for fun here. Because this is still a work in progress. Yeah, this number's about the same, 52. So hopefully it's working the way I said, and not scooping up these others back here.
Yeah, I didn't actually look at the numbers of how many properties were in there. It may have just been picking up the residue that weren't in the other category.
Yep.
But so if I were to go in there and only score the ones that I have in the new market areas, that's not necessarily going to pick up all the properties, I assume.
Right, right. Yeah, so
get rid of those other market area.
Yep. You'll want to put them in the markets that you want them to be in before you do a lot of work on the combining piece, because anytime you change a market name, Validix is again going to go in there and split it up into the 15 or so categories based on style and type and stuff.
Yeah.
And so you'll see that when you go to markets here, the market tab, and just let's see, that was 631, and do a search, and then you'll see this number, right? The 44 market groups.
Right. To where I had 250 some odd.
Yeah.
Market.
Yeah. And from our experience out here, if you can get this to 20 to 30 markets, that's probably, and maybe of those 20 or 30, 15 to 20 have enough properties that you can balance them every month, then I think that's going to be manageable in terms of the work you do each month when you download the new MLS sales. And
okay, well, in this situation right here, Matt, you've got the your Independence High School, and then you've got your MAT Test 2 down here that was obviously the one you just did.
Right.
If you want to, can you delete one of those MAT Test 2 categories, or because that's my problem. I got all those extra market names in there that I don't want.
Yeah.
So if I were to, how do I go about getting those out of there?
Right. So if you didn't like, MAT Test 2 and wanted to change the market name for everything, then you'd go into the REDE tool, and you could do it. You could do it there. You could open. Let me just open one here. And you've used this before, right? So you could go in here to market name, and oh, this is one I hadn't done. But it would show all the ones, all the different market names that you've got and the quantity, and you could select and filter out the ones that have the old name. And then,
I see.
Then you could either change this to blank and apply the editing.
Yeah,
Or if you knew all of them that were in, old name A, now go into new name B, then you could actually put the new name in here and just do that all in the REDE tool.
Okay.
Depending on how your scheme works.
Right. Now, I also did. I took my zone, and a lot of because they're fairly new tracks in here, a lot of them have individual names that the realtors refer to.
Right.
Like T-Bridge or something to that effect.
Yep.
And I did go through all of the homes, and by knowing the Thomas Brothers map codes and a few things like that, I was able to name each one of those as by their subdivision.
Right.
And I have a spreadsheet on an XML spreadsheet with a new column in there that has them categorized by subdivision.
Yeah.
Now in Volytics, is there a category that I can utilize that, and how do I get it off my SD card into to upload it into the system, the Volytics system?
Right. So you've got a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet where you've got
right. Spreadsheet.
So I'm sorry. What kind of spreadsheet?
It's Excel.
Yep. On that Excel spreadsheet, is there a line for every property address?
Yes.
Okay. So, there's actually a way with this REDE tool you can bring in data from another source and put it into Volytics if it helps you to use it. You talked about like the developers and they have their names of the developments. We have some of that up here, and you can see my screen here under neighborhood name. That's where it's mapped in. And so if that's helpful, and I wanted to put all the Doherty Ranch properties into some market that I didn't already have them, I could click these and say apply filter. I'm starting with 12,000 properties here. Filter those out, and I get 84, which are the ones I want to work on, and then I could go over here to market name and put in Doherty Ranch or something, and or stick with the CA 607 Doherty Ranch, and then apply editing, and so that's doable. Go ahead.
Isn't that creating a new market area, just calling it Doherty Ranch, though?
It is creating a new market name. If I already had an existing market name, I'd put that in here, and it would just add those 84 to it.
So if I knew that the Springbrook development was going to be in my market area A, then I could just take all of those and filter them and then put them into that market area.
Right.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, this REDE tool is very powerful that way in terms of being able to make big changes and being able to sort on stuff based on what they've mapped from your assessor's data into Volytics for you. And I know this varies county by county. Like here in Santa Clara County, in this extras comment field, they put together or concatenated a bunch of fields. So there's something about parking spaces and pool and spa and air conditioning that's all in there. So if you can decode it and that's helpful to you, you can use this field to go in and help you with your scoring. For example, you might be able to give it an extra point in your extras if it has central air, for example. And so you can use that the REDE tool to do that.
So if I wanted to bring that information in from that spreadsheet, is it other input file up at the top that I would go to that and browse to my SD card or something like that?
Yeah, exactly. I can't remember if I've got one set up. You go here and you browse. It has to be an Excel file or a CSV or tab separated values. So it can't be another XML, so it can't be another zone file. But if you've got an Excel file, then you can bring that in, and then it will allow you to match it up. And so you might use like the address. I think that's the default they've got. So if you can match it by street address, then
sure. Well, that's in there, yeah.
Yeah, and let me see if it shows anything here. It'll put in this list all those fields that are on your little Excel file from the SD card, like with a star in front of them. So then you could use this part of the tool, this source field and destination field, to move everything, from that field on your Excel file into one of the fields here in your XML file for your zone. And so if particularly if you've got an area, a field that doesn't have any data in it, not view rating.
Yeah, well, basically what I did is I copied the whole zone onto an SD card. Then I opened my my Excel and added a column in there for the subdivision, or I think I called it development name or something like that.
Right.
And then added that one column information. So I just basically took all the files or all the properties that were on the system and just added one more column in there that had the developers or the subdivision name.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that'd be great. Now, I mean, it's possible, and you can look. They talk about this 2580 data, which is the name of the file that comes from FAIR's, First American Real Estate Services, that should have your assessor information. It won't have MLS information, but it's possible if they mapped it right into neighborhood name. It's possible that it's already in there.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I could use neighborhood name. I mean, that would work. I could just put all of that column information into that grouping. It's another way of filtering I'm looking at.
Right, and yeah, I mean, if you've got it and it's not in the data currently in Validix, I think it's great to get it in there. Typically, you're going to have to find one of these comment fields to map it to, unless you want to overwrite what's already in one of the fields. And so, I mean, maybe it's appropriate to, you can look what's in neighborhood name now, but it might be appropriate to overwrite it if it's just got like a tract number from the plat map. That's not as valuable probably as if you've got the name of it and you can recognize it. So you can certainly do that. I mean, with this tool, you can filter out just the records that you want to work on and update that field like neighborhood name just for those 84 records if that's what you're working on.
Sure.
So that's doable. I didn't write that up in my document, but I think Glenn or I could certainly help you when you get ready to do that.
Okay, that sounds workable.
Yeah.
Good.
One thing I was going to do is go back here and just show you. You said you hadn't gone through the primary secondary grouping yet, and I'll show you how that works. And I've got that written up in my little document about taking a zone live. For your zone, once you do this market search and see these market groups here. You asked me about deleting some of these, and that's where I was talking about
Hmm.
the REDE tool. If there's any that Validics creates where there's 0 properties,
Mm-hmm.
it will give you a little additional link here beside edit that will say delete, although they're talking about
Okay.
automating this
Mm-hmm.
to get those out. But then what you're going to want to do, you see these quantities here, 12, 28, 11, 111. You're going to want to look at a way to see if you can logically combine those and to get this quantity up to, like I was talking about, a couple hundred. And the place you're going to want to get those to is this total properties column.
Okay.
The way this thing works is that this column that says market properties, that means the number of properties that are in the primary market group. And the second column here, total properties, means the primary plus any of the combined secondary ones. So I've got something here under custom home that pulls in 6 more market groups and gives me a total of 17 properties. That's not enough, realistically, probably to use Validics, but that's how this is going to look. And right now it's only showing 44 markets because I just stuck with the default settings here on this search. If I say both, that'll show me what I started from originally. So I started from 94 markets and did some combining to get it down to 44 primary markets.
I get you, yeah.
And so what you'll want to do is, once Validics does its thing, is you'll want to look at which of these could I reasonably combine. So you probably wouldn't want to combine, you definitely wouldn't want to combine single family detached and townhomes, for example. But you could probably say it's reasonable for me to combine single family detached 1-story and 2-story, or single family detached 1,050 to 1,299 with 1,300 to 1,599.
Sure.
And perhaps across market groups, we talked about maybe there's a couple similar developments, and so you could take some from a smaller development that didn't have as many in the smaller single family and combine those all together so you can get this number up to around 200 if possible. And what I did was I'd kind of eyeball them first and say, okay, well, this 37 looks like the largest number, so I'm going to make that my primary, although I don't think it matters particularly. It's just what's going to display on the on this page. But I'm going to start with that and say, okay, I'm going to scoop up some of the 1,300 square foot single families and in these 2 categories, undefined and 1-story, and put those all together. And I'll just demonstrate here for you how we do that.
Sure.
You'll start by clicking on the link over here under market name, and that's going to bring this one up on another screen. And on the green line up here, this is telling you the market that you're looking at right now. Mat test to 1,600 to 1,999. There's that 37 number. This is the 2 columns, the primary market group and then total. And the number on the left of the slash is how many properties are currently modified live. How many are you predicting values on? And that's none of them right now. But once you're on this page, and the way this menu scheme works is a little unique. The blue line is like the primary menu choice market, and then this white line is like the drop down underneath. So we're looking at this market, and over here to the right is this combine button. So I'm going to click that, and I'm going to say, okay, here's my primary market group in green. I click combine, and it's going to bring up a screen that looks like this.
I see. Yeah.
Okay, so it's showing me over here all of the available market groups, meaning these have not been combined with anything else yet. And then over here, I can start moving them over with these arrows into secondary market groups, meaning I'm going to pick the ones out of this list that I want to put in as a secondary market group under this primary one. And so I was talking about these single family, and so I'll go here. This is 1600 to 1999. Maybe I'm going to pick the group just above that, up to 2500. Click this, and I can hold down the control key and click a couple of these. I won't pick condos, and maybe I'll go down to 1300 here, and then I'll push this button to bring them across. And so then what that did is say, okay, now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 secondary market groups plus this one, so there'll be 7 altogether. And I guess the numbers are reversed here. So it's saying altogether there's going to be a total of 127, 14 from this market, 1 from that, 5 to that. And so if I'm happy with that, then I'm done on this screen. The interface is a little funny. There's no save button or anything. Once you click this arrow, it just makes it happen automatically. But if I made a mistake and I didn't like it, picked one I didn't want in there, I can click it here and click this button, and it puts it back over here. So once I'm done, then I can just go back here to mark. I'm still under the markets main menu choice. Go to search, and I had 44. This thing does not refresh automatically, so I'm going to hit search again, and now I'm down to 39. So, you know, I combined 5 of them, and it's down here on this line. You know, there's 37 in the primary, plus those others, the 117 or whatever, minus the one I took out. So 126. So that's my number. And once I've got those, like I was saying, up to about 200, then they're going to be manageable, and I can go in and balance them each month. And had you tried stepping through that yet, Richard, where you did the balancing just to see what the values were?
No, I haven't, no.
Okay. Well, if it's all right, I'll just give you a demonstration of that, too, so you can see how that would look. So after you've combined these and got them like these up here where there's enough properties, then each month you're going to go into balance. So you'll start on this Markets tab, search it, and click on the link for it, and then it'll bring you to this balance page. And so now this is the thing with selecting comps. So if there's photos, they'll appear here, and then you'll look at the sales prices here and, you know, the different factors and say, okay, these look like reasonable sales that I can use as comps. And if you like them, you can click the yellow star. Well, that's interesting. I think what this tells me is this must be a new property that the latest 2580 data run put in, and so I hadn't scored it in the tool yet, the REDE tool, which I need to do. For it to work, you've got to have those 7 fields in there.
Yep.
And I guess it doesn't show year built here, but 3150 square foot lot, that's one of these newer, smaller developments where it's got small lot sizes. So that probably is some brand new construction. Just to continue with the demo here, I'll click these. So once I've clicked 3 comps, and I can do up to 6, it'll start predicting values.
Yes.
Now, it's got the exact same value, 760K, for all of these, because over here on the left, I haven't told it how much dollar weight to put on any differences between the ratings, where I had gone in the REDE tool and done those things. And so one time only, as you set up your zone, you're going to need to put in the values for these fields, and when and you may have done this already, when you're initially looking at the zone and thinking about how you're going to score things, you'll want to think about that. So, in your area, if a view could potentially add $100,000, you may want this to be, 200,000, and you'll say stuff with kind of a standard view has a 5, and stuff with a premium view has a 10. So it'd be, 5 steps, each step being 1/10 of this value. So that would give it something to work with. And I'll just do this one because you can see over here on this last one we said it's got a good view. And so when I put that in, you can see it changed those values. So it bumped its predicted price on this thing to 786 because it's got a better view, 754 on these two. And that's still way below the 910K, so we're not there yet. But the other key value, of course, you're going to want to put in is what's your impact and price per square foot for size differences. And so, for a lot of the markets up here, I found $80 was about right. And that's probably going to be close to what you're doing in regular appraisal practice.
Typically 75, yeah. 70.
So once I do that and click in another field here, well, it made another change. You can see it's predicting now that this one's 802K, and it differentiated these two because this is 1,630 square feet versus 2,392. That may or may not be enough. We need to work on that. But you'll go through and put in those values for each of these fields, and if the market conditions have been flat, you can leave this at 0. If it's a increasing market at 6% a year in terms of price levels, you could put that in as well, and then it'll work off the sale date, which is up here, this date that's shown here, and make a time adjustment as well.
Sure. And
so then that's how it's going to work after you've got these combined. And I guess that one had like 126 properties, and you can see my most recent sales were November, October, September, and May. So I'm not quite going back a year, but there's only been 4 sales. So you can see that number of 200 or more is probably going to be reasonable,
right,
for most people.
When these are when the system brings up these comps as examples, would it bring up something more recent if it were available? Or
yes, yeah, it sequences them by date, so the most recent ones are first, and after you've put some as comps, and I'll show you this on another of the markets that I had done. Let's see, let me pick one from January. It'll show in blue with the gold star. These are the ones from the last time I did it, December, November. So those are in order.
Yeah.
But all the new ones I loaded into MLS, then those are over here on the white, and again, it's by date. So here's February 13th, January 25th. And so then each month I'll want to go in and probably look at the old ones and maybe turn off a couple of those that have aged out, and maybe go back and pick a couple of the newer ones. And with each one, as I pick it, you can see it's changing these red numbers here, and over here on the left I've got my influences of opinion filled in for all 7 of those fields that I've scored. And so then that's what you'll do each month, and as you go through it, you'll want to compare, what's the Validix predicted price versus what it actually sold for. And when you do this for real, I've got a dual monitor set up. Another guy just printed out the MLS listings, but you'll want to look at the MLS listing, and there's our MLS number, and go in and verify your assumptions. So if it's got a view you didn't know about, you bump this up, and if the condition was better or worse than you assumed, you'll want to make that adjustment there on the condition rating. And so you'll fine tune those, or score to the gold standard, as Chaz says. And you'll want to look at getting these two numbers as close as possible, right? The Validix predicted price versus what it actually sold for. If you discover it was a non-arm's length transaction, you can click that box to take it out.
Yeah.
And so then that's how the process will work each month. Once you've put the new comps in and adjusted your scoring, you'll click this Make Modified Live button, and the system will do some QA rules here. Now, this is something they're going to work on. It's kind of using the old underwriting rules for traditional appraisals that aren't necessarily applicable here. If they're over a mile away, that may still be a legitimate comp, or if it's more than 6 months away. So here's the warnings. There's no red, failures, but like this warning says subject value is not bracketed.
Right. Yep.
So there's some of those, and so when you're picking your comps, you're going to want to, at least for me, I've seen that it works better if you do try to bracket it. Pick a bigger one and a smaller one in the ones you select as comps, and maybe one that was in real good condition and one that wasn't, so that you've got that differentiation there. Is that one yours?
Yeah, it's mine.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Yep.
Appraisal office? Yes, speaking. Yeah, sorry, Glenn.
Okay, yeah, no problem. So on the on this QA results box, I was just saying that they're saying 4 out of these 245 properties aren't bracketed. I can click on this little link here and see them if I want to look at it, or if I'm satisfied that it's still okay, I can override it, and you can set up a comment and use it automatically. And once I click override, it turns blue here. Same way about this maximum distance. 30 of them apparently are more than a mile away. I can say that's okay. And once I'm happy, I've satisfied the QA alerts, I close this. And so now for this market group, Independence High School, 1050 to 1299, where I had balanced it on January before, now if I go back and search, again, it will show it after I refresh it as having been done today. And so the C means that I've updated the comps as of March 23rd. I guess X, maybe after 2 months or 3 months, it'll say it needs to be updated again just to keep the data fresh. But that's how it'll work, going forward once you've got the market set up and combined into the primary secondary relationship, so you've got the kind of the critical mass in terms of numbers of properties.
Right. Well, it looks to me like I should be able to go in and with the REDE tool and take some of those age categories, because again, a lot of my new market areas that I've defined are age definitive as well. So I could it would probably be very easy for me to go in and grab those things and put them into the, combine them with the new areas that I've defined.
Right.
It probably shouldn't be too difficult to do it that way.
Yeah. I think, as long as you can see a pattern in the data or the values and kind of know where you want to map things, the REDE tool is pretty powerful that way. Yeah. I was thinking that it actually had Thomas Brothers location, but maybe it doesn't here. Again, I think that depends on your assessor and whether they've used it. But again, any kind of data that's in here that you can use, the REDE tool certainly gives you the power to filter on that and then go in and update the fields fairly quickly.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, is there anything else that you'd like to see or talk about, and I can demo for you this morning at this point?
I think I've got enough to keep me busy through the weekend.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, I just, while you were on the phone there, I hit send, and that's got the documents that I'd put together based on working with the other zone owners up here, and has some screenshots
Great.
and stuff. So hopefully that will be helpful. And I always just hit record on these sessions, and then I can just put it on my YouTube site. So I'll send you a link too if you'd want to go back and look at anything that will be available as well.
Excellent.
So.
I appreciate it, Matt. Thank you kindly.
Yeah, you bet. And certainly Glenn is real familiar with all this stuff and can probably help you with most things. But I'm glad to as well if Glenn's not available or you get stuck or want to give me a call on anything we talked about today. Just please do so or drop me an email.
I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Okay, sounds good. We'll talk to you later then, Richard.
All right. Thank you, Matt.
Take care. Bye-bye.